Welcome back, all you beautiful Bulletproof handymen and women, to the Bulletproof Handyman Business YouTube channel. So today's video has been spurred by a lot of questions about why I work with property managers exclusively. Most of y'all seem to understand why I would work with them some, but I get a lot of questions about why I avoid homeowners at all costs. So I'm going to try to answer that in today's video. What I've done is I've just made a very long list, and honestly this took me not more than 15 minutes to just sort of go through in my head all of the differences between property managers and homeowners. And I'm just going to lay it out for you what the difference is between each of them on, looks like a few dozen different parameters that I've come up with. Before we get started, I do want to remind everybody real quick, just simply because today is the 29th. So if you have a jobber free trial through my link, or if you're going to want to get your software for your business anytime soon, at the moment my link is 20% off for the first 6 months, and Jobber has their own promotion running that will work in conjunction with mine for a further discount. Their promotion ends on the 31st. That's the last day. So on the 1st, that promotion goes away, and then you'll have only my discount. So if you're going to be needing it soon, I would suggest getting that done before the 1st. And if you don't need it soon, it'd be perfectly fine to just wait and get your free trial later and test it out and get it whenever you want to get it. But I just wanted y'all to know that you can use them together. And if you do use them together, you have to get that done before the 1st. Otherwise, you'll only have my discount rather than both of them combined. So let's start the video. I'm going to do like a little disclaimer first, because I'm already anticipating a lot of the comments. A lot of y'all are going to say, oh, I have homeowners that aren't that way, or I have property managers that aren't that way. There are plenty of exceptions to this rule. This is just what I've found to be the case in general for me. And what I'm comparing is your average property manager and your average handyman and your average homeowner. So again, there's lots of exceptions to this rule, but this is what I think you'll find to be the case overall as you go throughout the process of starting and running your business. So let's get started. First thing is pricing. So with pricing, for a property manager, there's a window of fair pricing that they're going to be familiar with. Again, an average property manager, if they have a reasonable amount of experience, they're going to know for most jobs that there's a fair window. They're going to expect your pricing to be within a window, and as long as it's within that window, you're going to be fine. You're not going to get any complaints. As opposed to homeowners, they typically, on average, they want a deal. People like feeling like they got deals. If you as an individual go to seek out, whether you're buying a car, whether you're hiring a handyman, it doesn't really matter what it is you're trying to do. People like getting deals. So they put time and energy into trying to get that deal, and they're going to put that time and energy into you trying to get a deal. And that's going to take your time, and it's going to take your energy, and you don't get to bill for the time that you spend trying to cut a deal. So I've found with property managers, the pricing is very easy. Once you learn where that window is, you just do the work and you invoice, and you do the work and you invoice. If you're working with homeowners, you're going to spend a lot of your time just trying to agree on a price. And that, again, that's time that you don't get to invoice for. You can't put a line item on there that says 42 minutes discussing and negotiating the price. Next, your personal income. So a property manager typically has no clue what your income personally is. They're aware that you're a business, and they're aware that you have overhead. They don't necessarily know how long you took to do each job, how much of the money that you charged went to overhead, and how much went into your pocket. So they don't really know or care what your personal annual income is. As opposed to a homeowner typically, they're dealing with you one-on-one as a person. They typically are going to know or want to know exactly what you spent on materials, etc. And they're going to have a good idea of how much money you're making. And if you're making close to $100 an hour, which most of us should be, if not far more if you're in a bigger city, maybe a little bit less if you're in a very small rural area. But if you're averaging around that $100 an hour, chances are your homeowner is not averaging around $100 an hour, and they're not going to like seeing that you're making more money than they are. So a property manager doesn't care either way what kind of money you personally take home, and a homeowner does. So that's going to save you a little bit of drama there. Vetting. I actually made a video on this one a while back. One of the biggest reasons for going with property managers is the vetting process. If you don't know what vetting means, vetting just means looking into them and figuring out if they're a good fit or not. So with a property manager, as an example, I have one, two, three, let's say 3 or 4 property managers for whom I'm their main handyman or close to their main handyman. They send me most of their work, if not all of their work. And then I have a handful of smaller ones that I just do stuff on the side for. But for those guys, I've vetted them already. In fact, they've all been vetted for a very long time. I did enough work with them. We did enough business together for me to come to the conclusion that they are a good fit for me and my business, and I don't have to vet them anymore. I don't have to worry about whether I'm going to get paid. They know what kind of work I do and don't do. We're just on the same page across pretty much the entire spectrum. So once that vetting is done with a property manager, if you stay on with them, they are worth tens of thousands of dollars a year in revenue, and you don't have to vet them because you've already done that, as opposed to homeowners. And again, yes, there are homeowners that will spend tens of thousands of dollars a year, and there are homeowners that you can vet, and then they will keep you busy quite a bit throughout the year. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but generally speaking, if you're working for homeowners, instead of working for 5 homeowners, and that being your entire business, you're working for hundreds of homeowners per year. And if you're working for hundreds of them per year, that means for hundreds of homeowners, even if it's, say, just 100 or even less than 100, call it 50 a year, you now have to vet 50 homeowners a year, every single year, day in and day out. You never know for sure if they're going to be stingy on the pricing, if they're going to be too picky on the work, if they're going to want to pay you less. That's really the biggest portion of it, is the pay. But you have to vet homeowners over and over and over and over, and most of them aren't going to be a good fit. So it's not like you vet them once and get to keep them. You're going to find them to not be a good fit, and then you're going to have to vet another and another and another. And someday you will get to the point, if you only work with homeowners, there will come a day, hopefully, if you're very good, where you'll get to the point where you don't need to vet them anymore and everything just runs smooth. But it takes forever. It's a huge hassle. And like I said, with a property manager, vet yourself a handful of them, and then you've got all the work you can handle for the rest of your life if the company stays in business. Next, materials. So when it comes to working with property managers, they don't want to know, and they don't care what materials you're using. They don't care what brand the faucet is. They don't care what type of hardwood you're using. What they want to know is the job done, and is it solid? If it's a good job and it's solid, they couldn't care less what type of materials you use. As opposed to homeowners, they'll get involved even with things like materials, and they'll ask you, what's the difference between Moen and Delta? Which one's better? Which one's cheaper? You'll put time and energy, and again, this is time and energy that, generally speaking, most homeowners don't want to pay you for. They don't consider that to be work time if they're just discussing what materials you use. And you're going to see this same thing sort of pop up over and over. Homeowners are just going to suck up a lot of your time and not want to pay you for the time that they sucked up. Let's see. Oh yeah, another thing with the materials. A lot of times, homeowners will want to go to Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever. They'll want to go with you, and they'll want to take up your time in the store checking out the products. And again, they don't necessarily want to pay you, especially not $100 an hour, to just walk around Home Depot looking at faucets with them. Next on materials, property managers don't tend to question the cost of the materials. So when you send an invoice, you're going to say new faucet, $128. They're not going to ask you for a receipt. And this is part of the vetting process, because yes, some of them will. This is how you vet them early on in the beginning. But you get rid of the ones who want you to send receipts for every single material you purchase, because the truth is, some of the materials you use, you might have purchased 3 months ago for a different job, or you might have seen them just discounted 50% off 3 months ago, so you bought them and threw them in your inventory. And when you go to invoice for that job, you're going to say, like, let's say a sliding glass door handle. Those, I could tell you right off the top of my head, last time I bought one, the last few times I bought one, they ran between $50 and $60. So if I were to have bought 3 of them on sale because they were discontinued and half off, then I'm still going to charge $50 to $60. I'm not going to go back and dig through receipts and serialize every single thing in my inventory to figure out what I paid for it on the day that I bought it. I just know what they cost. I invoice what they generally cost. and I have an inventory that's also full of stuff I got at a discount. So your property managers, you can vet out the ones that are going to want receipts or that are going to question your materials costs, as opposed to homeowners. They typically are going to want receipts. And again, yes, over time you can vet homeowners, but you're going to go through hundreds of them to get down to the ones who don't really question things like that too often. Scheduling. Tenants. So this is a really interesting one. I think this is a very important one. When it comes to scheduling, a homeowner, generally speaking, if they can afford to hire somebody to work on their house, they probably have a job. If they have a job, they're probably not at home Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So a lot of the scheduling with homeowners, with plenty of exceptions, a lot of the scheduling is going to be they want you to work nights and weekends, or they want you to work one very specific day that they have off. Tenants, on the other hand, after you do learn how to communicate with them, and you do have to learn this. If you don't learn this, and I've done a video on this, and I'll probably do another more in-depth video, but with tenants, there is a way to speak to them where they view you as a business, not as a person, and they understand that as a business, you need to be able to work during regular business hours. So there's a way you can communicate with them that will get them on the same page as, hey, this job needs to get done, and this guy has a family and a life and a business, and he's not going to be going to everybody's houses after 5 p.m. on weekdays and then on weekends, because he has a normal life just like me. So you can talk to them in such a way where they understand that they need to figure out a time and day during the week, during normal business hours, to accommodate you coming to fix what they have to fix. And this just makes your scheduling a lot easier. Go look for that video. It's a really good one. It's a really important one. I don't remember when I posted it, but it really, honestly, guys, it will make all the difference in the world when you learn how to speak to tenants in such a way that it gets them on board with understanding that you need to fix their house, they need their house fixed, and they need to accommodate you coming and doing that repair. Next, vacant properties. So this falls under scheduling also. For scheduling with property managers, a lot of your work is going to be on vacant properties, which means when you have gaps in your schedule where you just couldn't get any tenants scheduled for that particular opening, you don't want to find yourself in the middle of town on a Wednesday with a 2-hour gap and you live 40 minutes away, and you're not going to drive 80 minutes round trip to fill that 2-hour gap just to go home and relax for 15 minutes and get back on the road. So if you have a lot of vacant properties, you fill in those gaps with the vacant properties where you can run over, knock it out. You don't need to schedule with anybody. They're almost just like your joker cards that you can just sort of fill in with anything else that you want to fill in terms of your time. They help you keep a full schedule, which helps you stay billable all the time. And then with homeowners, it's only scheduling. You know, there are no vacant properties that you're working on for homeowners. They're homeowners, they live there. You have to work around their schedule. Next, difference between property managers and homeowners is add-ons. With a property manager, so let's say that I get sent to a home and there are 2 items to be fixed. There's a sink pop-up that's not working, and there's, let's just say, a leaky sink in the kitchen. Those 2 things are bad. Those 2 things you were requested to fix. When you show up, you fix those 2 things. If the tenant says while you're there, if they say, hey, I've also got a door to the bathroom that isn't shutting correctly. When I shut it, it won't latch. A homeowner is going to want you to do that while you're there, and if it only takes you 4 minutes, which it's probably only going to take you 4 minutes, that homeowner is not going to want to pay extra for that. They're not going to enjoy you saying, yes, I can do that, but I'm going to schedule it on a different trip with its own trip fee, and they're not going to be okay with you saying, yes, I can fix that, but it's going to be an extra $50. With a property manager, if they sent you 2 items to fix and you fix those 2 items, once they're fixed, you're done. If there's another item to fix, you let the tenant know that they need to contact the property manager and report that to the property manager, and that you can schedule in the future to come back and fix that, along with any other things that they may have forgotten to tell the property manager. What this does is it means you don't get nickel and dimed, because when you're with a homeowner, and I had this happen when I worked for homeowners over the years, I've done this business before, not with property management, and it was always a headache, because homeowners always want you to do extra stuff while you're there. There's always 1 or 2 little things that they want to know, hey, while you're here already, can you just fix that real quick? And they don't want to pay you the extra to fix it. And if you're like me, you have a decent idea of how long these jobs should take you, you're scheduling your days very tightly, and you don't have extra time scheduled into your day to do extra tasks. You've figured out what you think your day should look like so that you stay busy jumping one job to the next and remain billable throughout the entire day. It's hard to stay billable when you're letting homeowners nickel and dime you into one extra thing, two extra things, or three extra things. So with property management, that's not an issue. You just tell the tenant, I'm only authorized to work what's on the work order. Please report that to your property manager, and if they assign it to me, I will schedule with you to come back and fix that as well. Let's see, manipulation. So there's a way in which homeowners try to manipulate where they always want to imply that they can hire somebody else or that they have two other guys coming to give an estimate on the same job. They're very price conscious, and they're going to try to manipulate you by the insinuation that there are other people to do this work. And the truth is there really aren't. If you look around, if you try to get a handyman for yourself, what you're going to find is they're all super busy and none of them are very cheap either. It's not easy to get somebody, but homeowners will always talk that way. They'll assume that you don't really know much of anything because you're just a handyman, and there's always some other guy who can do it cheaper. Let them go with the other guy and do it cheaper. When it comes to property managers, they know there's not another guy. If there was another guy who was cheaper and as good as you, they would already be using him and they would have no need for you. So they don't generally try to manipulate you that way. They also don't have a lot of guys with a lot of time in their schedule to go give estimates, so chances are, when you're giving an estimate, sometimes there's another guy giving another estimate, sometimes there's two other guys giving two other estimates, but most of the time, if they've asked you for an estimate, they're crossing your fingers that it's going to come back a fair estimate, not a cheap estimate, not a killer deal. They're just hoping that it's going to be a fair estimate that falls within that window. They'll present it to the owner of that home and they'll say, hey, here's what the handyman said it would cost. I know that this is a good price. You should say yes, and we should get him to fix this house so that you continue to have tenants paying rent. So that's a big deal for me. They don't really, the new ones will try to manipulate you, but they find out very quickly as you train them that you're not able to be manipulated because you understand your value and you're not willing to make yourself non-billable over and over for them. They're not going to try to do that to you. For the most part, again, you have to vet them. You just have to vet far fewer of them than you have to vet homeowners. Next, window shopping. This is kind of in the same category, probably why I wrote it down right after that. Homeowners are notorious for window shopping. A homeowner who probably can't afford to redo their bathroom or who thinks that a bathroom getting redone should be like $1,000, they're going to call a handyman to get an estimate really with no intention. They're not going to tell you they have no intention of hiring you. They're just curious. And they're going to ask you to give them an estimate, and you're going to give them the estimate, and then you're not going to get the job, not because your estimate wasn't good, but because they don't have the money and they had no intention of getting that done. They might get that done next year or the year after, but they had no intention when they asked you for that estimate of having the money in the bank ready to hand over so that you can remodel their bathroom. Property managers tend to not do that, and you do sometimes have to train them. I've had a few that I had to train and what I do is if I notice that, let's just call it 50%. If half of the estimates that I send out get approved and half don't, I'm fairly happy. The average is honestly more like 80% get approved and 20% don't, but if more than half are getting approved, that tells me that most of my estimates I'm getting asked for because the intent for the work to get done is there, and on half of them, I might just be a little too expensive because I'm not super cheap, and that's okay. But with homeowners, you're going to find a lot, like more than half of them are not going to hire you to do the job unless you've vetted them, which again is a very long process. But with property managers, if half of them get approved, I'm happy. Now, if I have a property manager where half of them, like less than half of them are getting approved, if 1 in 5 is getting approved, I see that very, very, very quickly because I have to put time, non-billable time, because I don't charge for them anymore. I used to charge for them. Now my new policy is, look, if it's a small job, you're just not getting an estimate. If it's a small job, you just need to send it to me and I'll go do it and I'll bill you. If it's a bigger job, then I'll do an estimate. But what happens is I'll do 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And if I see that that property manager is not getting them approved for me and I'm not actually getting billable work out of these estimates, if that happens, then I just tell that property manager, hey, from now on, I have to bill for estimates. It's going to be $125 per estimate because I've done 4 estimates for you and only 1 got approved, and I can't afford 3 estimates is easily, call it 2 hours of work. You got to go to the property and look at it, and you got to look up the materials, and you got to sit down and think the job through and write it up. Bare minimum 2 hours. So if I did 4, we're now talking about 8 hours of work, and I got 2 hours of pay out of that work if I only got one of those jobs. So I just tell them from now on, I'm going to have to go ahead and bill you for estimates. And then at some point, you'll start noticing that they stop asking you for nearly as many estimates, and they start getting a lot more of them approved. And then when that happens, when I see most of my estimates getting approved, then I say, hey, from now on, I'm not going to bill you for estimates. Go ahead and send me whatever requests you want for estimates for the bigger jobs. But just keep in mind, I need them to only be estimates that there is a real intent of getting the work done soon, as long as the price is fair. And then if they falter again, I really never give them that option again. After that, I just tell them it's $125 per estimate, and I just stay there with that one property manager. But honestly, like as of right now, that's not a thing. All of my property managers, I give free estimates for bigger jobs, and almost all of them get somewhere in the ballpark of 80%, I would say, approved. And even the 20% that don't get approved, they come back later and they ask me for a new estimate for the same job, or they ask me to go ahead and do that job. And I basically tell them like, hey, it's been a few months, the prices of things have gone up, and the condition of the thing I'm working on has gone down. And I'll just add 10-15% to that estimate. And that also encourages them to just go ahead and get things approved when I'm giving estimates. Pretty simple. But homeowners just don't work that way. They'll waste your time window shopping quite a bit. Next is time and respect for your time. A property manager understands that you're a business, and they're going to generally respect your time for the most part. They understand that because they have dozens of jobs over the course of weeks or even just a couple months, because they have dozens upon dozens of jobs, many of them not small jobs that need to get done, and because they've been doing this for a while, the average property manager isn't brand new. Because of that situation, they understand that you can't just jump on every job the instant they send it to you. So they'll send you, say, 5 jobs over the course of a week, and 1 or 2 of those jobs will get done within 2 or 3 days maybe because they're smaller, and then 1 or 2 of those jobs are going to get scheduled like a week out. And then maybe one of those jobs ends up getting scheduled like 2 weeks out because you're busy and it's not a high priority job. Well, with a homeowner who's spending their own hard-earned cash, and they got on the internet and they started looking for a handyman, or they asked around looking for a handyman, they always want it done right away. They're okay with tomorrow. They're okay with the day after tomorrow. Maybe they're okay with waiting until this weekend, but they're never okay with being a week or 2 out. They want what they want, and they want it now. And it's going to be a hassle if you can't give it to them now. And like I said, property managers, they've been in the business. They understand that when they've hired a professional handyman who works for property managers exclusively, they understand that he has a schedule and that he's generally going to be booked out at least a week, if not 2 or 3. And they also understand, like my guys know, that I have some openings in my schedule for some of their higher priority work. They also know that I have other handymen that I can utilize. They also know that I can reschedule jobs that I've already scheduled to accommodate things that truly are priority, but they don't tend to view all of their jobs as being your number 1 priority. So they do respect your time a little more than homeowners do. Warranties. So what I've found with property managers, and here's my policy with my warranties. This example I'm going to give you doesn't actually apply to me, but it does apply to most handymen who are in this industry with property management. So my warranty is just a verbal understanding that I'm trying to build a business to support my family, that I would like to be their handyman in 5 years and in 10 years and in 15 years. I would like for their property management company to always send me everything that they can send me. And in order to achieve that goal, I'm going to need to back up my work. So my priority for them, or rather my policy for them that I've told all of them is, hey, my policy is if it's my fault, I'm going to fix it for free. And if it's not my fault, I'm going to charge you to fix it. And it doesn't matter if it happens, if it goes bad 6 months from now or a year from now or 10 years from now. If it's obviously my fault, I'm going to take care of it and I'm not going to charge you. And if it's not my fault, I'm going to charge you. It's just a very simple process. However, here's what you're going to find is most property managers are going to want a 1-year warranty. They're aware that most handymen won't give them more than a 1-year warranty, and they don't want to accept anything less than a 1-year warranty, and they consider that warranty to just simply be, if it's your fault, kind of like my policy, if it's your fault, that you'll fix it for free, and if it's not your fault, then you'll charge. But homeowners, they keep your number forever. You go and I don't care what it is. Let's say you install a faucet in a kitchen. If you install that faucet for a property manager and a year later there's a leak, that property manager's not going to assume that that's your fault. They're going to say, "Man, faucet made it a year. It must have been a good install. It's probably a bad faucet," which is not the handyman's fault. Whereas a homeowner, you install a faucet and 3 years later it starts leaking, they call you and want to know if it's under warranty or if you can give them a discount because you're the one who bought the faucet, picked it out, and installed it. And they're just, again, it's their hard-earned money. They went to work and they gave away a part of their life to get this money, and they don't want to give you any more of it than they absolutely have to. As opposed to a property manager, they're spending the homeowner's money, the person who owns the rental home. They're spending someone else's money, and that someone else views this rental home as an investment property, and they expect their investments to require a little bit of maintenance over time. And honestly, if they own a rental property, they're doing well enough financially that, kind of like how I know the value of my time, that homeowner understands the value of their time, and they understand that it's really not worth it to try to save $50 if they have to put an hour or two of their time into fighting for that $50. So the process is just much smoother. And again, if you have just a good reputation, if you do good solid work and you get very few callbacks, if something lasted a year, they're just going to trust you and assume that if you say, "Hey, this wasn't me, this was because of whatever scenario you tell them caused the problem," they're just going to believe you for the most part if they've been with you for a while and they've seen that you do solid work. And with my property managers, oftentimes, I'm going to say every 3 months or so, I get a job that's something like a callback where they say, "Hey, you installed this 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. You did this job a while back, and now it needs a little work." And they'll usually say, "Please let us know if this is under warranty or if this is just normal wear and tear or if the tenant caused it or whatever." And typically what I'll do is I will tell them why I think it failed. Typically it's not my fault. Every now and then it is. We all make mistakes. So every now and then I'll say it's my fault. But most of the time I say, "Hey, turns out this wasn't my fault. This is just a material failure of the product that I used. So I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to charge you for the materials to replace it, but I'm going to go ahead and give you the labor for free." Or if it's something like drywall, which it rarely would be because that doesn't fail, but if it was something where the materials cost is very cheap, let's say take a sliding closet door, right? The bypass doors for your closets that slide behind each other. The materials for those, for the rollers, let's say I put new rollers on one a year ago, and now it's been a year and one of the rollers is going bad, or the tenant just says, "Hey, the closet door's falling off. I don't know why." So I show up and I check it out, and I see that it's just one of the rollers is just kind of in crappy shape. I have rollers in inventory. They're like $1.50. I'm going to throw that new roller on there, fix the closet door, and I'm going to tell the property manager, "Hey, it looks like it was one of the rollers. There's really nothing I could do to install a roller incorrectly, but I just went ahead and knocked it out for free because I appreciate your business." And you do that one time, like say once every 3 months, to just keep them with a reminder that you back up your work. That will get you so much loyalty. They're going to feel so much more comfortable sending you tens of thousands of dollars worth of work every year. So consider that a customer acquisition cost. You didn't acquire them, but you maintained them as a customer for $1.50 worth of materials and 20 minutes of your time. And yeah, you could have made $125 on it, but that $125 is nothing compared to just the loyalty you'll get. Again, as opposed to the homeowner, they'll call you a year later and demand that you come fix it for free because you installed it. Next, pickiness. So Property management. Let me tell you how this works if you don't already know. With a property manager, they almost never see the work that you do. They rely on your pictures and your work description. A property manager just simply wants to know this is an investment property. This is an asset that brings in money. This is an asset that produces value. The asset has an issue, and it may not keep producing value if the issue isn't resolved. They don't want to know how pretty it is. They don't want to know how meticulous you were about making it perfect. What they want to know is this asset repaired so that it continues to provide me with the value I need? If the answer is yes, they're happy and they're done. So you send them pictures. Let's say you put in a new toilet and you caulk around the base. Make sure you leave a little gap in the back in case there's a leak where the water can escape out there and people can be made aware there's a leak. Otherwise, it'll go under the tile or under the linoleum or into the floor. But anyways, you go caulk the toilet. If it's a homeowner, they're probably going to be standing there watching you. Or when you're done, they're going to go look at it. And they're going to say, I feel like that caulk could be a little thinner. I feel like that caulk could be a little thicker. Oh, I see that a little bit of that caulk squeezed out into the grout line, and I can see that you cleaned it, but there's still a little bit of white there. Can you get rid of that? You don't get that from property managers. You take the old toilet off, you put the new toilet on, you caulk around it. It needs to be a solid caulk job. It needs to not look like crap. But it also doesn't need to look like the best caulk job anyone has ever seen. There is a satisfactory level, call it 80%, 85%. There is a level below which it's a bad job and above which it's a good job. And if you're in the window up above where it's a good job, they don't really care if it's the best job they've ever seen or the fourth best job they've ever seen, as long as it's a good job. Homeowners, they're just picky, man. They're picky, picky, picky. Not all of them, but enough of them that you just run into them constantly, and now you're scraping caulk out, or you're redoing caulk, or you're touching up something over and over and over again to make them happy, when really you did a perfectly fine job the first time, and it's their hard-earned cash out of their pocket they're giving you, and they want the best deal they can get. Property managers don't want the best deal they can get. They just want a good deal. They want a fair deal. They want everybody to win. Next, respecting your time, which we've kind of gone over a little bit, but there's more examples. So respecting your time. When you show up at a tenant's house, again, let's call it a toilet replacement. You show up at a tenant's house to replace the toilet. They don't own this house. They don't care what toilet you're putting in. They don't care about anything. They just want a toilet that works. So when you show up, they tend to get out of your way, and you replace a toilet as fast as you're able to replace a toilet and do a good job of it. And then you leave, and that's it. You're done. You replace that toilet, you get out of there. With homeowners, they're going to be up in your business. They're going to be looking at the new toilet that you brought. They're going to be asking questions about the new toilet compared to the old toilet. They're going to be asking you questions about after you remove the toilet. They're going to look at the floor and see that it's all ugly and want to know, are you going to clean that? And if you are going to clean it, they're going to want it to be really clean, even though nobody's ever going to see it or touch it, and it doesn't smell. But they're just going to be up in your business the whole time. They're going to want to talk to you. They're going to want to chit-chat with you. They're going to ask a million questions. They don't respect your time. They don't understand that you're trying to make money to support a family, and this is your business, and you need to get the toilet replaced and get out of there. Property managers slash homeowners, property managers slash tenants, they don't want to know any details. What they want to know is, do I have a toilet that works? If the answer is yes, they're happy and you move on, which means you have more jobs you can do per day, which means you can make more money for your family. Next, also under respecting time, property managers, they do not want any of your time. In fact, the idea that they would take some of your time, that idea would imply immediately for them to take your time, they have to give you some of theirs. They have to initiate a conversation. In order to have a conversation, it has to be reciprocal. So every minute that you're wasting talking to them, they're also wasting talking to you, and they don't have a lot of extra time, just like you don't have a lot of extra time. In fact, your job is to take maintenance off of their plate completely. You don't want them even thinking about maintenance. You want them to send you a work order and then receive an invoice and move on with their life. So property managers, not only do they not want your time, they really would prefer that you don't take much of theirs either. Homeowners, complete opposite. Homeowners want to know for the smallest, simplest jobs. They want to know, can you come over and just take a look at it first and tell me what it would take to get it done? right off the bat, that's a no-go, because no, I'm not going to go take a look at your leaky faucet just to let you know what it would take to fix it should you choose to hire me to fix it. That doesn't happen with them. Homeowners want to take your time with everything. They want to talk to you about all of it. Like I said, they want to go to Home Depot with you. They want free estimates. Not even a free estimate. They just always want to meet in person. I don't blame them. I really don't. But that's not how I maximize my income. I don't maximize my income by bullshitting with homeowners and making them feel good. I maximize my income by letting a property manager vet me and decide that I'm a good fit, and then just send me work so I can knock it out. They don't take any of my time, and honestly, they don't want any of my time. Workload. Okay, so workload with property management. Workload is year-round. There are busier times a year and slower times a year, but with property management, there is a baseline workload of just things that fail due to age, and it's just consistent. You've always got this baseline workload. You can always expect a certain number of jobs per property manager per week. With homeowners, that's not the case. When it's the middle of the winter, homeowners are busy with the holidays and stuff, and they're not worried about hiring handymen. Or if they are, they want you the same day because they've got family coming into town. It's very annoying because they don't respect your time. But with property managers, it's just a simple case of, bathroom exhaust fans sometimes just stop working on a routine basis after they've got so many hours in their life that they're going to run before they die. And you're just always going and doing these routine jobs, and that doesn't matter what the season is. Whereas with homeowners, it's seasonal. Homeowners, you're going to find the workload really picks up in the springtime and into the early summertime. If you're in an area of the country that has nice summers and it's not 108 degrees like it is here, you're also going to find that work lasts through the summer and then slows down during the holidays. But with property management, like I said, there's a background amount of workload. It doesn't really matter. Tax return time. Oftentimes in the spring, you're going to get a lot more extra work just because tax returns, because people suddenly have the money, it's burning a hole in their pocket, and they've always wanted to do such and such to their bathroom. They want to spend it. They want to spend it now. So all of a sudden, you're busy as hell from like February to, I don't know, let's say the end of June. You can't take any time for yourself because everybody wants you. And then all of a sudden it's August and nobody needs you at all. Or it's Christmas time and you need money because it's Christmas time and nobody's hiring you because they're all traveling, they're out of town, they're making plans, they're going to parties. As long as nothing's broke that's going to mess up their Christmas party, they're not looking for you. They don't want their bathroom half tore apart at Christmas time. So that's another one of the big differences. Let's see, where were we at here? Workload again. Workload. So property management is recession-proof, and homeowners definitely go with the market. This especially matters if you've done a well enough job for yourself to get to higher-end homeowners. When a recession hits, and COVID doesn't really count, COVID was kind of the opposite. Most handymen ended up with an absurd amount of extra work during COVID, but that had a lot to do with, number one, everybody was forced to stay in their house. So they needed their house to be more functional, and they were there more to notice what was not functional. So COVID, we did pretty well. There was a lot of stimulus checks going out, so people who were able to maintain their job and got stimulus checks invested a lot of those stimulus checks into making their house, where they were being forced to stay, making their house a nicer place to be. With property management, it doesn't care about what the market's doing. If there's a recession and a lot of people are out of work and stuff, it doesn't really matter. If the house breaks, the house has to get fixed. By law, it must get fixed. So your work just continues straight through the recession as if there was no recession, and you don't have to ride the ups and downs of the market with the higher end people. And then another one for workload. Okay, yeah. So with property managers, your workload, let's say the housing market's booming. The prices of all the homes are just absolutely skyrocketing. It's absurd. It's been happening. It keeps happening. When all the housing prices skyrocket, what you're going to find is a lot of people are going to buy investment properties to turn into rentals. And their logic for that is the housing market is doing so good and the prices are going up. I need to get in on this and get a rental going because I can charge a lot of money for rent. And the homeowners, they're kind of the same way. They're watching their own home's value go up, and they're either pulling equity out to improve the home, or they're going to be planning on selling the home because it's at such a high value and they know it's likely to go down later and they want to sell high, and then they're going to buy, maybe they're going to downsize or they're going to move into the country and get some land. It doesn't matter. When the market's good, both property management and homeowners, the workload goes up. However, when the housing market's bad, homeowners tend to not be wanting to pay anybody to do any work. There's less equity to pull from their house. They're not planning on selling their house right now because the prices are low and they don't want to sell low. So they're not hiring handymen to get it ready to be sold. They're only hiring what they really need. However, with property management, this is a really crazy thing. When housing prices plummet with property management, your workload also goes up. So if it's a good market, your workload goes up. If it's a bad market, your workload goes up. Why? Because they just use an opposite logic and do the same thing that they've always been doing, which is they say, oh, look, the homes are cheap. It's time to buy an investment property cheap so that when the market goes back up, I'm renting it out at a higher rate than what I paid for it. So it doesn't really matter what the housing market itself is doing, whether it goes up or goes down. If the housing market is moving, your workload is increasing, and that's a very good thing. That's, again, another way that this is bulletproof. Next, lead generation. I just put nope and yep because here's the bottom line. When you have property managers, you don't need to generate leads. My job full-time right now is to tell everybody no. No, 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 no. Not looking for new clients, not looking for homeowners, not looking for new property managers. I never, ever, ever do any advertising at all. I never pay for any leads at all, ever. It's a foreign concept to me. Why? Because I get tens of thousands of dollars worth of work from every single property manager that I have annually. Every single year, tens of thousands of dollars. I don't need leads. I don't need to advertise ever. I just need to do a good job and I stay in business. Homeowners, if that's what you're working for, you are going to need leads. Now, again, the exception to the rule is if you're super great and if you've built up the clientele over the past few years, then yes, you're probably in a position where you don't need leads. But the work you had to go through to get there compared to the work you have to go through to get 5 good property managers, two different completely different worlds. They're getting property managers, you get them. Like in 6 months, you'll go through enough of them if you're doing what you should be doing and getting enough and then getting more so that you can drop the bad ones. You need to get, if you can get 5 and you can't keep up with 5, that's fine. Get 5. Bust your ass for a few months trying to make sure all that work gets done as fast as possible. And within just a month, you're going to find out real quick which ones paid you fast, which ones complained about your rates, which ones complained about your work, which ones were picky about different things, which ones took up all your extra time. Within a month, half of those you're going to say, nope, I don't want to work for them anymore. And the other half you're going to say, hey, this is working out. I enjoy working for you. And you're going to go get more. And then half of those in a month you're going to get rid of, and the other half you're going to keep. And before you know it, easily before 6 months is out, you're set, man. You're absolutely set. In fact, you're so set that if you're doing a good job, you're going to end up having to hire a helper or sub some work out or get a full-time employee. You're just going to have to if you do a good job. That is not a thing with homeowners, though. With homeowners, you're always going to need, until you put those years in, you're going to spend years and years just searching for more work and trying to get those leads so that you can meet the homeowners, so that you can impress them while they're vetting you, while you're vetting them. It's just a lot of work that really isn't necessary if you want to be making money today. Next, patience. Okay, so this kind of is a two-way street, but a property manager, they can't wait to get certain jobs done. Like, let's say a toilet's not working. That property manager cannot wait. They have to get that toilet fixed. And what that means is that if you're the only guy they have that can do it, you charge what you need to charge. Now, that applies less to a toilet. Let's talk about drywall work and patience. If there was a leak and the drywall on the ceiling is damaged, there's some amount of time that you can wait to get that fixed, but that property manager, they need to get that work order knocked out for the homeowner, and they need it knocked out soon. So if you have certain skills that are relatively rare, and you can offer those skills up at a higher rate than maybe what you charge for other things. If you are skilled enough to do it, and if you've developed that reputation as, hey, this is the guy that when it's a complex job that could go wrong in many, many different ways and that is always going to cost a bit more money than usual, if you're the guy who every time they send you that, you do get it knocked out and you get it knocked out right, even if you're a little pricey, they're just going to go with you. And part of that reason is because they don't have other guys that are at your level. And yes, they could go look for one, but if you put in $1,000 estimate to repair like an 8x8 hole in the sheetrock on the ceiling after some water damage, and you're going to spray some fungicide in there too, and they know your work, $800 or $1,000, it might be a lot of money, but they don't have somebody else who's ready right away to go knock that out in a quality way, in a way that they know isn't going to go bad. So because they don't have the time, because they can't just wait 3 months until they do eventually pick up one or two other guys that are capable of that to get matching, or rather competing estimates, because they don't have that and because they can't wait, oftentimes you can just become the guy that they know you're expensive on that particular thing, but they know you're solid, and they just go ahead and have you do the estimate. They don't have anybody else do an estimate on it. They already know they're going to send it to you because it's fair, but they can't wait. As opposed to homeowners, let's say a homeowner, 8-inch hole in the ceiling from a leak, and you tell that homeowner it's going to be $1,000, and they're pretty sure that there are guys out there who will do that work for less than $1,000, they can afford to wait. There's no homeowner above the homeowner who's coming down and saying, hey, how come my property's not getting fixed? If they are the one living at the property, if you're working directly for homeowners, they can wait until a cheaper guy comes along if they don't like your pricing for the types of jobs where there is a shortage of skilled labor. Next, experience level. So what you're going to find is most homeowners, they don't have a lot of experience at hiring tradespeople and contractors and handymen, because they only have the one house. It only breaks so often. So they're not experienced. They don't know what the market is. They don't know what they should be paying. They don't know what other people are paying. They just don't have the experience. They don't know how long it should take. They don't know how much you should be making per hour. None of that. They just have no idea. So they often come into this with no experience, looking at a job and going, okay, I guess that seems like it should take a day, and I make $200 a day, so I would expect a handyman would charge me $200 because he's probably not making more than me, and then the materials I figure $100, so I should get this for $300. Well, then you as the handyman come along to this homeowner and you say $1,000, and they just lose their mind because they can't believe there's any way it could cost $1,000 because it only takes a few hours and it only takes a little bit of materials. Well, what they don't understand is there's a free market. And if you're a guy who learned a skill that most other guys don't have, at least most other guys who are not on meth don't have, if you're the only guy, you charge what you want to charge, and that's your price, because once people find out, let's say you charge $300 for something that you could charge $1,000 for. Well, now you're the $300 drywall guy, and all you're going to get is drywall job after drywall job that you're going to be charging the $300 for when you could be charging more. So what you want to do is you want to understand what your value is with each of the skills you have, and you want to figure out what's the value. You know, if all the cows in the United States die, and you've got 3 milk cows and nobody else has any, guess how much you're selling that milk for? It doesn't matter that it only took you 10 minutes to pump it out of the cow. If you've got a gallon of milk and you're the only guy in the United States with a gallon of milk, somebody with money who wants that milk bad enough will pay you $1,000, and that's the new value of a gallon of milk. So your value is not based on an hourly rate. You're not charging hourly. You are hoping over the long run to be making a minimum of $100 an hour or $150 or whatever it is where you live. You're hoping for that average. You do have to value your time and know what you want in exchange for it, but homeowners are not going to be okay with $1,000 pay for a job that took you 2 to 3 hours to do. They're just not going to be okay with it. Whereas a property manager, because they can't wait, they're just going to say, okay, look, yeah, he's going to get it done. There aren't other guys I can hire at a cheaper price that I know we're going to get it done right and on time and without pissing off a tenant. So it's very important. Next. Oh, hold on. So we were talking about property managers being experienced and homeowners being experienced. Yeah, I feel like we covered that pretty well. I just wanted to, sorry, I'm looking at my list and I'm just double checking because I get off on tangents if you haven't noticed. Next is competition. Actually, let's take a break for a second real quick. In the description is my Jobber link for the free trial of Jobber. They're the reason, because of their sponsorship of this channel, they're the reason that I have the time to make these videos for you. Nothing is behind a paywall for you guys. I've made that rule. That is forever going to be the essence of this channel, is that nothing's behind a paywall. I will make sponsors pay for the content and for my time that I put into making the content. In order to help me, you can go to my description on this video, and whatever you see, I've got insurance like Next Insurance, which is who I insure my company through. I've got a newsletter that you can subscribe to. I've got all kinds of stuff in there. I've got an Amazon storefront where all the tools that you need for your handyman business are there. I've got a link for you to request pricing information from me, jobs frequency information, my CSV files that I actually use for writing my estimates on Jobber. You can receive a file from me where if you have Jobber, you can import it directly, and now you have all of my custom line items, and you can just point and click, adjust them as necessary for your market and for your work, but you can just point and click. That's all I'm taking this break for. I'm going to go right back to this. I just want to remind you all there's no paywalls, but it does take my time to come in here and do this, and I'm trying to build it into something even bigger and better with a master class so that everybody, I can literally hold their hand from day one all the way through actually running their business. So do me a favor and just check out the description, and if there's anything that suits you, that you can use, that is valuable to you, please go ahead and use my links to go to these places and to transact your business, because that will help me to continue to be able to take the time from my business over here to YouTube to run this for you. Now, moving on, competition. So, a property manager that has experience, what they understand from their experience is that good handymen are expensive. They just are. That's the way it is. What it takes to get good is also what it takes to learn what you're worth. Those two come together. So by the time you're very good, and I don't mean good at replacing a faucet, I mean good at running a business where you can keep up with a property manager's workload and put her in a position where she no longer worries about maintenance. That, to them, has no value. It's invaluable. It has infinite value. They don't want anything more than a handyman where they can just send work orders and receive invoices that are priced fairly with solid work. So competition for a property manager, we don't have a lot of that. I don't have a lot of competition. What I have is a lot of guys working for homeowners who don't know what a property manager needs and who aren't capable of providing her with what she needs. As opposed to homeowners, you got a lot of competition. Most handymen, now granted, we're in a good position because there aren't enough of us, so most handymen can find work, but most handymen are working for homeowners, so most of them out there are going after your homeowners, even though half the properties out there that are breaking are rental properties. So with homeowners, you're competing against all the other handymen, and depending on how the market's doing, overall, like the stock market as well as the jobs market, just all of the market, the economy in general, depending on how it's doing and how badly people want work, you're going to have a lot of competition. With property managers, not the new ones. The new ones are stupid, and they go after other handymen who are cheaper, and they typically need to learn this lesson 3 or 4 times before they really get it. But when they find a guy, you no longer have competition. If you do a good job, there's no such thing as competition because they are scared to try out another handyman. As long as your work is solid, your prices are fair, and you're consistent with your follow-through, as long as all of that happens, competition goes away. I've got one property manager. I've been with him well over 2 years now. And for 2 straight years, for more than 2 years, probably about 2.5, he sent me everything, and he continues to send me everything, and he doesn't try out other guys because he's learned that the 10 guys before me didn't take care of business, and now that he has me and I take care of business, with a mistake here and there, we're all human, but very rare, very minor mistakes that I always take care of if they happen. Now that he knows he has that, he doesn't test out other guys, and I don't think he ever will. So you have no competition once you've gotten your foot in the door and shown yourself to be a very reliable, solid handyman. Next is whether or not they need you. Your property manager, this ties into the last one, they need you. It's their job. They can get fired or they can get in a lot of trouble and they can just have a shitty experience at work if they don't have a good handyman, because their job is to make sure the maintenance gets done. And the way they do that is by finding guys like you to get the work done. But if they fail to find you, if you're a good one, if they failed to find you and instead they found the shitty ones, their job, their work is going to suck. And we spend more time at work awake than we do at home awake with our family. So it matters if their job sucks. They need you. Once you've shown yourself to be what they need, they know they need you. Homeowners, on the other hand, they don't necessarily need you. They need somebody. They need a problem fixed in the moment, but they don't view you as somebody that they need to treat a particular way in order to keep around because they need you. Homeowners feel like they're doing you a favor by hiring you. Property managers, every now and then, they'll think that way, but they learn that they're wrong pretty quick. You need them just as much as they need you, but the truth is you do both need each other. So there's a lot of incentive there to just maintain a very healthy, positive rapport with them. Next is the pay. So this is one of the only areas where homeowners may have the tiniest little leg up, and it's not about how much money you charge. You can charge homeowners a lot, you can charge property managers a lot. I would definitely make the argument you can charge property managers more on average, even though there are homeowners who will pay way more if you're lucky enough to be that guy who puts in the years and who is absolutely the best at everything. You can get rich homeowners to pay you absurd amounts of money, but generally speaking, property managers pay better. But what I will give homeowners is homeowners typically pay same day. They pay when the work is done, or if it's a big job like a kitchen remodel, maybe they pay 3 days later or something, but you also received a deposit in advance. But typically, homeowners, yes, they'll pay you faster. However, they tend to pay you less, in my opinion. Next is whether they treat you as a business or a person. A property manager, because she needs lots and lots, again, tens of thousands of dollars worth of work done every year, year in and year out, they're going to treat you like a business because, honestly, they're going to understand you are. When they hire a handyman, not a handyman business, when they hire a handyman and that handyman doesn't work out, and then one day they find you and you're a handyman business, once that happens, they view you as a business, they treat you as a business, they learn to show a little bit of respect. And I'm not talking about you going in and demanding it. I'm just saying they understand that you are a business and they start treating you the way that they would treat any business because that's how you've behaved with them and that's what they've come to expect. Whereas a homeowner almost always is going to treat you like a person. And that doesn't mean they're going to treat you bad, but you don't treat a person the same way you treat a business. A person, you don't mind asking for favors. A person, you don't mind, like if you get to know the homeowner that you're working for, if that's who you're working for as homeowners, once you get to know them and you've gotten friendly with them, they're going to start wanting favors, they're going to start wanting price reductions, they're going to start getting more comfortable wasting your time. And I know a lot of handymen who honestly love, or not handymen, but tradesmen, who love their homeowners, and they're like, I'm best friends with all my homeowners. I don't want to be best friends with any of them. I want them to say, hey, here's the work I need done so that I can say, okay, cool, I got you, I'm going to take care of it. And that just doesn't seem to happen. So your property managers are generally going to treat you more like a business, which means they're going to understand you have policies, procedures, there's things you will do, there's things you won't do, there's prices you do these things at, and none of it's negotiable. Just like when you go to Walmart, the price of the object on the shelf isn't negotiable. It just is what it is. If you go to a mechanic, if you go to any normal shop around town for a mechanic, not like a hole in the wall, but an actual mechanic shop, they're going to have a set shop price. If you have an alternator on a 1996 Ford Taurus, that's going to be exactly $483 or whatever the price is to replace that alternator. And it's not going to be a penny cheaper or a penny more expensive unless they find additional things wrong that they fix. But that's how you'll get treated eventually once you show yourself to be a business if you're working with property managers. With homeowners, they almost always want to develop that personal relationship with you, and that never makes business easier. Next is subbing out work. So let's say hypothetically you've done a good job with your homeowners. Let's say you've impressed them, they've used you for years, they've recommended you to their friends, you've built up a network, you've put in the time and the effort, and then let's say you're getting so busy that now you don't have enough time to keep all of your homeowners happy, and they're all good homeowners. You don't have any reason to want to drop any of them. Well, for a homeowner, what do you think they're going to think if they hire you to change out a kitchen faucet, and then some guy shows up that they've never met before to change out the kitchen faucet? That's not what they wanted. They weren't hiring that guy. They were hiring you. They've invested their time and their years into you, and the reason they're willing to pay you what they're paying you is because it's you, right? So you grow to where you can't keep up with the work, and now what happens when you want to bring in a subcontractor or hire an employee to send them over there to do the work? Well, your homeowner's not going to like it. Now, one solution to that might be to raise your prices until you lose homeowners, but now you're developing that reputation as somebody who's ripping people off, and that's not going to be useful in the long run for you. And if you get too expensive and then the market crashes and they know what your prices are, they're not even going to call you if they're not willing to pay your extremely expensive prices. Again, guys, this is the Bulletproof Handyman channel. We're trying to build bulletproof businesses, which just simply means it can take a lot of hits and keep going. It's not that it can't be killed, but that's what we're trying to do, is build a long-term stable business, and you don't do that by just raising your prices until you're so damn expensive that half of your clientele can't handle you. Now, with a property manager, they generally don't care who's showing up to the job, nor do they even know who showed up to the job. Because, why? Because you're a business. Because they just simply hired a business to solve a problem, and as long as the problem gets solved, you can sub out work. There have been times where I've had 5 subs. There have been times where I had 1 sub. Right now I have my son and his friend and a guy that I met through this channel that's here in Tucson who's absolutely outstanding, and a drywall guy that I think I'm not using anymore. I need to talk to him and see what's going on because he missed a few jobs, and I'm thinking I can't send him out to do this work anymore. But the point is if I need 5 more, if I grow, I can get 5 more. If I shrink, I can let go of 3 of them because they're not employees. I don't pay them hourly. They don't have to do what I tell them to do. They just simply accept or reject jobs that I offer them. And if they accept them, they do the jobs, and then I pay them. So it's very easy to sort of grow and shrink the business as necessary, as opposed to with homeowners. Once you have them with your set pricing, you either just have to let them go because you can't do their work, or find some other solution because most of them aren't going to be okay with just whoever you choose showing up at their front door. We're getting closer to being done here, guys. Let's see. Touch-ups. So with property managers, typically they don't even see the work that you do. It should be great work, don't get me wrong, but with a homeowner, what you're going to find, let's say you do a whole house, a whole interior paint job on a house. The homeowner, they live in that house, man. They're going to notice every teeny tiny little defect that can be noticed because they live in that house. It's their hard-earned cash, and they want it to be perfect. They want to have gotten a good deal. They're going to call you back multiple times for every teeny tiny little spot that you missed or drop of paint that got on something that it shouldn't have. And again, you need to do a great job either way. I'm not saying you can do a shit job and not worry about it, but what I am saying is with property management, you do the same quality job, whole house interior paint, and there are always going to be a handful of teeny tiny little things that somebody could notice, but nobody's going and looking for it. Nobody's going into the closet and looking behind the door, up at the edge of the casing, and getting on a ladder to look at the top casing over the door to see if you got paint on it. Nobody knows, nobody cares, nobody looks for it, so the amount of touch-ups that you go back to do are very minimal. Typically, you're not going back unless you really missed something important, but nobody's just walking around you walking behind you, being picky about your work. And standards. So here's the standard for a property manager. Did the problem get solved? Is it solid? Does it work? Is it not crap? Is it not hacked? Just simply that. Is it a solid, good job done with quality materials that solved the problem and I can move on? If the answer is yes, the property manager's happy. That's all they want to know. That's all they need to know, and they move on. Standards for a homeowner who are spending their own hard-earned cash on the house they live in, their standard nears something that you could call perfection. Now, a lot of y'all, and this is fine, I know I'm going to get these comments, I always do, and it doesn't matter. I'm trying to teach people how to run a profitable business, not how to live a handyman lifestyle. So, a lot of the times the homeowners are just going to want near perfection, and they're not going to be okay with the slightest little defects in anything. They're going to notice that they're going to like grab it and try to move it and see if they can break it free, and then say, well, this post, see if I push on this post real hard, it kind of wobbles. I'm serious, guys. I've had this stuff happen. And it's not going to happen with a property manager. It's just not going to. If you did solid work, they're just absolutely happy. Homeowners, if it's their hard-earned money, they really do tend to just be looking for something close to perfection. And I'm not out here to live a handyman lifestyle. I'm not here to post a bunch of pictures on Instagram to show y'all how absolutely just what an amazing craftsman I am. I'm here to make money to raise my family. I need my family to be safe and secure. I need to build a business that will outlast me, that will take care of them when I'm gone. And I'm not going to do that by being the craftsman who shows up at your house, shakes your hand, comes to your daughter's birthday party. That's not what I'm out here doing. I'm out here trying to build a business, and that's how it gets built. And then finally, this will be the last line item that I have, is training your property manager. And I think I'm going to do a video and title it, How to Train Your Property Manager. You cannot train a homeowner. You just can't. They don't need you often enough, and the things they do need you for, if you're there a lot, it's because you're doing huge jobs like kitchens and bathrooms and stuff. But you can train your property manager. They need to interact with you on a constant basis, even if only through sending work orders and receiving invoices and estimates and whatnot. But your property manager, you can absolutely train them. You can say, look, I'm giving you what you need. And you don't use these words. Please don't use these words. It's an idea that you're trying to convey is you want them to feel like this guy gives me what I need. I send him work orders, the work gets done in a solid professional manner, and I receive an invoice, and he has taken maintenance off of my hands. However, he appears to need me to be this way, and he appears to need me to be this way. His policy is that he won't do this, he won't do this, and he won't do this, and he has other policies that says he will do this, he always does this, and there is no option about not doing this. You can train them over time to just understand what you will and won't do, what your pricing is, what your standards are, how things are going to work, and if you've done your job of removing maintenance from their plate, if you've done that job, you can train them to be the property manager that you need them to be, rather than you treating them like an employee who must be the way that they need you to be. That is the very last one. This, as it boils down to all about vetting, if you haven't noticed, that's the common theme here, is you just need less time and you put in less effort to get yourself essentially more work than you'll ever be able to handle at a very high, very fair rate. It takes less to get that out of a property manager, and if you lose one, it's easy to replace them with another one. So that's my answer to why I don't work with homeowners, why I literally every single time I get a call from them, with one or two very tiny exceptions, very, very tiny exceptions, my rule is just simply if you're not a property manager or if you're not an individual who owns like 26 rental homes that you're managing yourself. But if you're not somebody who is on top of a whole lot of rentals and understands that this is a business and understands the value of what I'm doing, I just don't want to work with you because I've just found them to be too difficult and to waste too much of my time. So with that being said, I hope I've answered the question well. I hope y'all have a better understanding of what I mean by bulletproof. This is bulletproof because, again, we've set something up that can take a lot of hits and still keep moving along and recover from those hits. So I hope y'all are out there killing it, and I'll see you on the next one.